Hi everyone, this is Farida Salim from Circle of Care, and today we are here with the second episode of our revision kicks. And today we are going to talk about a concept which is widely spoken about in our society nowadays, but I feel it's misunderstood at so many levels. And thanks to the work that I have been doing in the field of inclusion for so long, I just want to share a few perspectives that I have on that, and perhaps again that would help you in some way. So let's go. So first of all, I just wanted to share that when we talk about inclusion, there are so many frameworks and so many ways in which people talk about inclusion, and this field has evolved so much. But at its heart, the idea of how do you engage with diversity, right? So, and I have just put one framework here, and I'm not going to talk about the framework, to be very honest with you. I just wanted to point something out using this example. And Again, the idea at the heart of inclusion is to deal with diversity. And a lot of times, what I feel people are doing is they are saying that, oh, we are okay with diversity. We understand what's diversity. It's when people are different and groups of people are different and their cultures or the way they are or their physical abilities are different. And we just need to be able to manage it or be okay with it or embrace it. And these are the different levels. So we see exclusion when people are not so okay with it, and they may say they are, but their behavior shows otherwise. And then there is integration and segregation and inclusion, right? And to be very honest with you, to be truly inclusive is a very difficult thing because that's something that does not come to us naturally. Our natural instinct of survival at its root, the animal instinct, tells us to be afraid of something which is different than us. So as soon as we spot something which feels different, which looks different, which acts different, it triggers that emotion of staying away, of fear, of danger. And therefore it's very important to learn this skill because this is a learned skill. And this is when you go beyond your beastly level, your survival level of being an animal, and you enter being a social, educated, intellectual animal, or rather a species which can deal with these emotions, which can overcome these emotions. Um, and so it's a learned behavior, it's a learned engagement to do it peacefully, to do it naturally, and it's learned at your home, in your schools, in your society, everywhere, right? I just want to refer to this image first, and you must have seen so many other images with dots and colors and so many other things. But the basic idea is, in every image you see, there are these group of people, the red and blue in this particular case, but otherwise also, which kind of show to you the normal range of people, the norm, the average, the kind that makes up the society and runs the society. And then in different models you see the other labels of people who are kind of either acting out of it or in it or away from it or parallel to it or whatever, right? What I'm trying to put forward is that in inclusion, true inclusion accepts diversity to be a natural phenomena. You look around you, there are no two things which are alike. You look at the snowflakes, no two snowflakes are same. You look at different species of animal, different habitats. Nothing is uniform in this universe. Everything has variety. Everything has difference in their makeup. Although they may be same category, but they're all unique. And I have been working with families and people, students in the field of education and counseling. I think the first child I tutored was back in 2007, and I've never looked back. So I've always gone into the field deeper and deeper. And so over the course of this time, I think I must have interacted with thousands of people and thousands of students, and I can tell you with certainty, no two kids, no two individuals are equally skilled, are the same. So when we think of inclusion as a society where there are average people or normal people, and then there are these, and I'm using these different terms which have been used over a period of time, which have been abnormal, which have been special, which have been differently abled, which have been disabled, right? So we see them as different than the normal, and then we somehow try to put them together. And on those different levels we try to act differently. That's not true inclusion, because we need to understand that even in that normal range of people that we talk about, no two people are exactly the same ability, are exactly normal, right? And those abnormal, and I don't like these labels, to be honest with you. Even the most, I think the least offensive one for me is differently abled, and that's why I use it in the literature of circle of care as well, although I don't like labels, because that's just a way of saying you are different in a way that's going to harm us. That goes back to that survival skill, and I feel it offensive. But just for the sake of discussion, differently abled is the one that I feel least harmful. But you know what? Even then, no two people are similarly abled. If that's the idea, that in the normal world people are similarly abled, and then are these differently abled people? No one's differently abled. What we have done is we have made a society that works for this average uh, group of people that we feel are in more number, and then the others are just suffering out somewhere, no matter how inclusive we try to be. And I'll explain to you why from an example in the educational setting, in a classroom setting. um, so there are these two words before I go into that example, which we hear a lot in this discussion of inclusion, and that's empathy and sympathy. And we say when you sympathize with someone, you just feel bad for someone and what the state they are in. When you empathize with someone, you feel the pain they are feeling, their emotions. You're trying to feel, you're mirroring their emotions. And therefore, it's at empathy level that you do inclusion. Well, I think we need to go a little bit more deeper, because at empathy level, although you feel perhaps what they are feeling, although it's very difficult to, what do you do with that feeling? Because if you say, oh, I feel that you, my dear child, since you cannot read, you are dyslexic, say for example, and you cannot read, so I feel that pain for you. But what do I do with it? Do I then help you to somehow take on things which are still based in reading when I know that you cannot? Or do I present that same learning opportunity to you in a non language way, in a way where the accessibility does not depend on your skill to read, or your understanding does not depend, or your expression of understanding does not depend on your ability to write? Because I know as a dyslexic child, that's your stumbling block, right? So what do I do? Do I let you stumble upon it again and again and just make sure that it doesn't hurt so much because I empathize with you? Or do I remove that stumbling block from your way, let you access learning? Because learning, yeah, there is one way of it with language written, right? There is another way where you can express it without a written language. That's where empathy comes into actually working towards inclusion, right? And now let me give you an example. So a lot of times I've been into so many classrooms trying to help teachers be more inclusive in the way they present to their, or they in the way they engage with their learners. Um, and I'm just giving you a random example. So, for example, if you're in a classroom and say this is an elementary school child, and the ages we are looking at are the ages where it's already very difficult for the kids to sit. And imagine there's this one child who may have been diagnosed with ADHD or autism. And again, I don't like these terms diagnosed, because, um, well, this is who they are, right? Yes, but for our convenience of helping them, we need to know what they're going through, right? So, so this child may have ADHD or autism, and this child automatically finds it difficult to sit, right? Or if it's an autistic child, they continuously maybe just flapping their hands, right? And if you're sitting in a classroom, now I'm talking about from an observer's perspective, right? So if a teacher is standing somewhere in the front, or we're in the center of the classroom, and all the kids are looking at her, and she's trying to teach something or demonstrate something, right? And there's this one child who's either rocking his chair continuously because he cannot sit, or say tapping his fingers like this, or flapping his hands, right? And the teacher, you can see in the body language of the teacher that in a few minutes time, the teacher's body language and the tone and the modality of her voice goes from being calm to a little hyper. And then so much so that sometimes they lose it in the class and they shout at the child or they want to correct the child. They correct the child publicly. And what is the usual A? Sit down, calm down, keep your hands on your lap, jiggle your fingers, relax, whatever, right? Move your feet and then calm down. But the expectation is to sit, listen like the others are doing. Now, and you're not really sure if they're listening or they're just staring at you, but please, for my sake, because I need to teach the way I need to teach, you need to sit quietly there without moving. That's the expectation. That's not sympathy, that's not empathy, right? And when you talk to these teachers and they come to you for advice and help, and they're telling you, but Miss Farida, how can I teach if a child is moving? Well, learning has nothing to do with the child sitting and moving. It's because you get disturbed by it. And sometimes they say the child was distracting the class. Or the child's behavior was disrupting learning. How? From what I saw, the child was moving in their position, in wherever they were sitting, right? Flapping their hands, moving their chair. They were just disturbing your view. No one else was disturbed until you reacted aggressively towards the child, or you pointed it out, or you corrected the child 10 times. And trust me, I've done similar mistakes when I was not so conscious about what I'm doing. Alternatively, if there's a child who you know finds it difficult to sit in a place, you can put a gym ball there. They can just roll on their ball and still listen to you. It won't bother you. You can put a small exercise bike there, and I've seen a lot of schools do that because they continuously need to move. They exercise, they move, and they listen. And they are the most attentive students, I tell you. Um, if it's an autistic child, they need to let them flap their hands. They're not disturbing anyone. If you really want them, you can give them those stress toys that they can push and they can squeeze, and that helps them relax their bodily instinct. But that's who they are. That does not affect their learning. It just affects what you think their class should look like, whether it's going that way or not, right? So a lot of times inclusion is just teaching yourself to be okay with the feeling that everyone is different around you, and that's fine. That's inclusion. And that automatically changes the way you deal or you engage with diversity. So instead of trying to say, oh, I understand that, you may eat different kind of food, but guess what? This cafeteria serves this food only. So I am conscious about your diversity. I just cannot let you eat the way you want in my cafeteria, right? So just a random example. So instead of trying to say, I understand you're different and I empathize with you, but that's okay if you're different in your own house. In this setting, public setting, you have to act this way, right? And I can help you come up to that level. That's not inclusion. Really, that's integration, right? Inclusion is when you say, oh, so you learn this way? Okay, so you can learn this way in my classroom. And I trust me, if a classroom has 30 different kids, trust me on this, most of them are learning in different ways and would be more successful in expressing what they have learned if they were given opportunities to express it in different ways. Not every child has to solve a math problem written on a paper to show you that he understands the concept of multiplication and division and measurements. There are tons of different ways, more engaging, and I'm telling you, more engaging for the teachers as well to do that. So, just a few thoughts on inclusion. Um, Next week onwards, we are going to talk about some parenting mistakes and some parenting tips. And then that's going to start with emotional maturity. That's something that also goes hand in hand with the way we behave in classrooms or otherwise with the idea of inclusion. But that's for next week. I hope this was helpful for some of you. And if you do like it, then share it and like our page and follow us. Bye bye.